Welcome to the Powell Bros movie reviews. This is another week, and we are reviewing another X-Men movie today. And yeah, I'm excited to be back as always. I've been enjoying this show a lot, and just being able to talk about movies, talk about stories, revisit a lot of childhood memories and movies and that I saw as a kid and loved watching as a kid. So a lot of nostalgia here, but enjoying every moment of it and enjoying podcasting with my co-host, my brother, Tobiah Powell. Welcome, Tobiah.
Hello, thank you. Yeah, we're excited to do this one. Yeah,
Totally.
this is the sequel in the original X-Men trilogy, X2,
Yep.
X-Men United.
Yes, this is like our second true sequel we've done
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
with the after Blade 2. Yeah. List is getting long. We're making our way. Now that we're coming off of our mid-season our mid-season break, a couple movies in, just ready for the home stretch with the rest of the season.
For sure.
X2 X-Men United. X-Men 2 X-Men United X2. I don't know what's up with that title. I don't know what's up with that title.
Yeah.
But anyways,
So yeah, what were your initial thoughts?
yeah. This was pretty good. I liked a lot about it. I think they did a good job telling a pretty straightforward story. There were a lot of things that were consequential, where things were happening to the good guys. It was similar to the first movie in some ways, where they're having to react and respond to things. However, I think they did it well, especially after like the X-Men kind of go on the run, with Wolverine leading them, which I love that they brought Wolverine back, and I think they did so much for his character in this movie that I enjoyed a lot, and I thought it was just well done. And we'll get into Wolverine obviously in a bit, because he was kind of the focus of this one, similar to him being the focus of the first one. I mean, it's another X-Men movie, so there's a lot of characters, and some who had stories that were told well. There's some that weren't told very well, where we're just kind of getting the same thing over and over again, where they're just some of the heroes are just there for plot convenience or whenever their superpowers are needed, and they don't really have much character or any development. Think of like Cyclops and Storm, and even Professor X. Like, I think we're 2 movies in, we haven't gotten really any character development at all from him, unless I'm mistaken, unless I'm not seeing something. But kind of just similar here, where he's kind of put on the sidelines for a little while and is being used by Stryker to get into Cerebro and plot his string together his plot to kill all the mutants. So he's used, kind of his powers are used, and instead of him using his powers, because he is pretty powerful and he could obviously solve like every problem. So I understand why they sideline him a lot. But anyways, I'm kind of getting off track here. Story, I thought it was decent, like better than most of the movies we've seen. I'd say like there was very little actually character development. A lot of the characters, I think Wolverine was really good. Others not so much. The villain was really good. I love Stryker, and we'll get into him. I thought he was an excellent villain, and yeah, I don't know. It was decent. It was good. I enjoyed it. It was fun. Had its issues. We'll get into those issues. Anyways, what do you think, Tobias?
Yeah, no, similar thoughts. I think it was a decent movie. I think, man, this movie was pretty long too. It was like 2 hours
Yeah, I
and
was
15,
surprised.
2 hours and 15 minutes, something like that. But a lot of that comes from a lot of side plots that were just pointless. There was a lot of scenes too that were just like non-consequential, you know. There was just I feel like if you cut those scenes down to like, and if you cut this movie down to like just the main story, it could have been like
Yeah.
an hour and 45 minutes. Like I feel like there's at
Okay.
least 30 minutes of just scenes that just had no connection to the plot other than just like action, you know, superhero action.
Yeah.
But these
I'm trying.
scenes just weren't like, because there was like scenes with cops that they were fighting, military people they were fighting. There was different mutants they were fighting, like Magneto and Raven, I think it was.
Yeah.
So there's just lots of scenes like that just were very non consequential and just had no connection to the plot. I was kind of getting lost in all of them, really, and so it was kind of those kind of bored me with it. But the actual story that they put in, and the connect, like towards the end when they start connecting a lot of things, and like Stryker, like we actually are seeing Stryker's plan laid out and all that. That's where it really starts to come together, and I was really starting to enjoy it by that point.
Yeah. Good point. I have to kind of think through that a little more because I didn't get that same sense where there was a bunch of scenes that were pointless because I felt like they all kind of mostly moved the plot along as far as like where all the characters were going and leading up to the third act. However, like once we got to the third act, I felt like it was like, I think it was almost halfway through the movie. There was like 40 minutes still left in the movie once we got to the third act. And that was pretty drawn out while it's still being a long movie. Cause leading up to that, you have like, an hour plus hour 15 to get to the third act. And then once you're there, I feel like they did a good job bringing everything together. I don't know. I'd have to think a little more as far as were there scenes that were non-consequential. Probably was. Like I said, it was a long movie, and you don't need that much to tell a story. You don't need that much for a movie. I think I've sure we said this before. Typically, a good movie is about an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes. Like you can tell a full story there. Superheroes have gotten into a habit and a trend of making very long movies. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Like, two of my favorite superhero movies, The Winter Soldier and Infinity War, like those are both pretty long movies, especially Infinity War.
Yeah.
But they're really good, and I think the story's well done.
Yeah.
Though it's been a while since
those ones do have very long, stretched out action scenes, but they are consequential to the story. Like they're not like like it's not like they don't matter. These are very important to the story. So it is a little different there, but yeah.
But that's interesting because like in these like early 2000s movies, there is a lot of action, but they're not as drawn out, and it's more of like here's a scene over here, just scene over here.
Yeah.
This happens. This happens. It's like going over and over instead of like long chases like of Captain America and Winter Soldier running through New York or Brooklyn or wherever they're at. Like when like they're chasing each other for like what seems like 20 minutes. I don't know how long it is, but it's a long drawn out scene where a lot's happening, but it's all one thing, and it's driving the plot along. But like I feel like in the early 2000s, especially with like Daredevil, what we saw last week, it was just so much action, so many scenes, but a lot of them are pointless and don't really help much to the story, and then the action just looked bad anyway and was not well choreographed or filmed
for sure.
But I feel like the action in this one was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I like a lot of Wolverine scenes. It was great to once he got the claws out and seeing him fight. It was good.
Yeah, for sure.
It was fun.
I feel like we didn't get too much of him. I wish we got a little more of his action, but yeah, his action was pretty great.
There wasn't a lot. Yeah,
and I think that was another one of the problems. There was like they were trying to. I think some of those scenes they were trying to show like all these different mutants' powers. Some of those side scenes like probably did have an effect on like these characters individually or something, and I might have missed it. But yeah, I do feel like they're trying to show a lot of these different characters and trying to make us like root for them with all these different fight scenes and stuff.
Yeah, because like they did a lot with Pyro, the kid that can control fire. They did a lot with him in order to set him up as one of the mutants who turns. I mean, he's the only one that he goes and joins Magneto, but you're watching him throughout the movie and him struggling with these things and wrestling with feeling like he's not fitting in, realizing that humans are pretty malicious towards mutants and whatnot, and he's starting to listen to Magneto and hear his side of the things, and so he turns. And so there's a lot of scenes that happen with him that maybe didn't seem super consequential to the plot, but for the story they were telling with him, it moved it along pretty well, and it did a lot to make it more impactful when he did turn. Well, sort of. I mean, there wasn't much impact when he turned, because then once everyone found out, they're like, "Oh, he left." So okay, and it was kind of moved on. But
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
that's just one character that I can think of. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. What was he in the first one, but like a different actor?
I think he was
Because
in
I
the
thought
first
I.
one. I feel like he was the same actor, but he looked familiar
Oh, okay.
as far as like
Well, I know
having
that
seen
I
it
know that
recently.
actor is going to be in Deadpool 3. That
Oh
same
yeah,
actor.
he is. That's the one. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember one of the X-Men. Yeah,
Yeah,
being
we've seen
announced.
pictures of him, and he looks pretty cool.
Right.
But
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think he was in the first. Well, I think the character was in the first one, but a different actor.
Sure,
But I'm not
you might be
sure.
right.
But yeah,
Yeah, he's in Last Stand. He's not an X-Men one. Yeah, there must be. Yeah, it must have been a different actor. Yeah, because there was someone that could mess with fire in the first movie.
yeah.
So yeah, would you I don't know. I guess we can. I mean, is there anything else about the story you want to talk about?
Not particularly. No, we can
Cool.
just kind of work through it.
Well, yeah, I guess actually, kind of before we move on, there were a lot of themes throughout the movie. I mean, they touched on the whole evolution theme again
Mm-hmm.
from the first line to the end. Like, they literally did that in the first one, where I think it was Charles that narrated the beginning, Eric, Magneto at the end, maybe. I can't remember. Maybe it was Charles in both. But anyways, Charles narrates at the beginning, and then Jean narrates at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But talking about evolution, that's obviously one of the key things with Jean's character is she's evolving into the Phoenix, the Dark Phoenix, which we see in the third movie. Because she dies and then's reborn in this one. There's a tease that she's being reborn. Anyways, that whole theory of evolution, it's taken millions and millions of years. Oh no, was it Storm at the end of this one? Was it Storm or Jean that narrated? I think it was Storm actually.
I think it was Storm. Yeah, it was Storm.
Okay. So either way, whatever.
Yeah.
So, the whole idea of evolution, mutants are a higher, more evolved being.
Yeah,
I think that's what they're getting at.
The evolutionary strand skipped a generation or something, and that's what mutants are a generation above regular people in the evolutionary whatever.
Right. Don't do Darwin, kids. Anyways, so you have that, which is just pagan jargon that is hopeless, meaningless, and just false.
Yep.
And we're not gonna get. This isn't a science podcast. We're not gonna get into that. But so we have that. We see the continual struggle that mutants are having as they try to live in the real world and trying not being accepted. You have Rogue. Rogue's her name, right?
Yeah, Rogue.
Yeah,
with the
Rogue's
blonde.
boyfriend.
Yeah.
Rogue's boyfriend and going to his parents. You have that whole thing, where his parents are like, "Have you tried not being a mutant and stuff?" So you have that continual, not being accepted, which but that's how X-Men are. That's why Stan Lee. I think he's one of the original writers of the X-Men. Because I know he has some quotes about how, the X-Men are just about those that, don't feel like they belong and that are marginalized from society and inspires them to be who they are and to be a better person and so forth. And which, there's a lot of truth in that. And, yes, everyone feels marginalized. Everyone, there's groups that you don't fit in with. There's often times where you do struggle with feeling accepted and belonging, and we wrestle with that as humans and in our own stories, and that was the point of the X-Men. The X-Men relate. Anyone can relate to the X-Men in some way, but it doesn't have to be about your identity. But it's not about your skin color. It's not about your sexuality. It's not about your gender. But it's about who you are as a person and whether or not you're going to do the right thing with the cards that you've been dealt in your own life. And of course, this is actually, interesting as we're working through the X-Men. We have X-Men 97, which maybe we can talk about more in our After Hours or in the Chronicles show. That's what I meant. We'll be looking for that. But just briefly on that, X-Men 97, which is for those who don't know, it's a sequel TV show to the original 90s X-Men movie TV show, which is a great show. But they remade it. They're sticking the same timeline, but what they're doing is they're throwing in and pushing a lot of identity politics and a lot of modern day jargon, modern day philosophies and ideas into the 90s, and it doesn't work. There's a lot of problems with the show, we can get into later, but anyways, the creators of that show, they're showing that they don't actually understand what the X-Men are about, because they're making it all about identity politics and their sexualities and or what person's sexual orientation is and all that. And it's like, oh, that's not the point.
Yeah. We can definitely talk about that.
Track.
Yeah, I was gonna say we can talk about that in the Movie Chronicles, which is our other show. So if you guys want to listen to that as well and support us on that show as well, we appreciate that. It's another free show that you can listen to anywhere. So
for sure. Because on top of that, you just get that continual theme throughout these X-Men movies, and we see that, of course, in this one. They're trying to figure out how to be accepted. And this one, they're being very much rejected, because there was a mutant that attempted to assassinate the president at the beginning of the movie. So that obviously kind of turns all the mutants, all the world against the mutants, and then they're having to struggle with that and wrestle with feeling even more rejected, and how do they fit in, and then, of course, one of the points of the movie and the story is to help people see that the mutants aren't all wicked, aren't all evil, and they're trying to save and be heroes, except for those like Magneto and then Stryker, who's using the mutants against the humans. So anyway, you have that.
Yeah, we can kind of get into villains. I think that would be a good time to.
Sure, let's do it.
Yeah. So we got Stryker as essentially the main villain.
Yeah.
And there's, of course, Magneto is alive. He's in prison. So they do put his story in this, and how he's still got allies and people working with him to help him get out of prison, and eventually he does, and they do help him get out of prison. And later on, he does have like kind of a sinister arc plan that comes to fruition. But yeah, Stryker is the main villain, and throughout the movie, he's trying to gain control of Xavier's powers, and so throughout the whole movie, he's just trying to get him into his grasps to abuse his powers to essentially kill every single mutant. Because his son is, I think they talked about his son in the first movie,
and it was mentioned,
and then that his son is a mutant. And in this movie, we actually see his son. We're introduced to him, and he's been totally mutilated, essentially, into this evil creature being. I mean, he looks like a person, but like he's like completely hooked up to this machine, and essentially a mindless man stuck within his powers. And his powers are similar to Xavier's, where he can control people's minds and get into their heads. Right. And do they really explain where his hatred comes from for mutants?
I think mostly it might have something to do with how his son was treated, and even the fact that his son was a mutant, and he loved his son, but he also kind of rejected him because he was a freak. I don't know if they explained this or not, but maybe like he might have not been able to control his powers, and it was always a danger to those around him.
Yeah, I think they did mention that, actually. Yeah. So anyway, Stryker has a immense hatred for mutants and wants to literally kill every single mutant. So he uses Xavier's powers with his son to try to kill every single mutant, and so throughout the movie, this is his goal, this is his mission, to kill all mutants. And he presented a very good villain, a very menacing villain, a very intelligent, thoughtful villain. He had a plan the whole time. They didn't expressly say what his plan was till a little bit later, I think, right? It was a little bit. It was towards the end that they like fully said like this. I'm trying to kill all mutants because like we knew he was trying.
Yeah.
We knew
He wanted Cerebro.
he
But
wanted
yeah.
the plans for Cerebro, and
Which
Raven helped him get the plans for Cerebro so that he could make his own Cerebro.
which you can kind of like assume that he
Right.
wants Cerebro for pretty nefarious motives against mutants because he hates mutants. And
Right. Yeah, we know he's a
and,
villain the whole time, and we know he's got
well, yeah,
sinister motives.
but that Cerebro has access to every human and every
Yeah.
person in the world, especially every mutant, and he knows that he thinks that mutants are wicked, evil, and he knows that his son was a mutant, and he probably wants to rid all mutants in the world so that there aren't more born. We're assuming it's like a genetic thing, or comes from like a parent. So if you kill all mutants, then there's no more mutants. Ever,
Yeah.
maybe, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, like I think they did a really good job at helping us see his motivations, helping us know why he does hate mutants. Is you see his son and see his relationship to his son, and also how he turned his son into this almost like a weapon to use against Charles in order to kill all mutants.
Yeah.
But he did a good job at moving all the pieces around. He had this serum that can mind control people. A little convenient, but it's fine. It works. And he's moving all these pieces around, playing his 4D chess and making sure that he can work everything out to his benefit to accomplish his goals. Because that's one thing you have to deal with when you have a villain that doesn't have powers. He doesn't have superpowers. He's not like equal in abilities to our heroes. And so how do you make a villain that's compelling, that's a threat? Because that's very important. Like he needs to be threatening, and it's hard to do. That's very hard to do. I think they did a good job in this one, in that he was able to use others for his own purpose and to work out his plan. Like in Star Wars, you have Thrawn. Thrawn's one of my favorite villains. I think they absolutely butchered him in Ahsoka. I think Disney does not understand that character. I don't think Dave Filoni understands that character, but we'll get into that another time, another day. But you have Thrawn, specifically in the extended universe. He's not a Jedi. He's not a Sith. He doesn't have a lightsaber, but he is very brilliant. He has a brilliant mind, and he's able to move the pieces around where they need to be in order to be seen as a threat to our heroes, even to someone like Luke Skywalker. Of course, he uses a dark Jedi to do that in the books. Anyway, but he's a brilliant mind who's able to work things out and be a compelling villain that we are fearful of or afraid of for our heroes. But we also know that he is still a threat, even though he doesn't have all these powers.
Yeah.
Same thing
And he
with superheroes,
uses
you get that sometimes.
Yeah, and he uses other mutants to his advantage, like for sure, like
Yep.
that lady that was kind of like Wolverine with her claws.
Yeah.
Like she was like always watching over his back and there to protect him if he needed it.
Protect him. Yeah.
Plus his son is there that he is extremely powerful, and
Yeah.
they're both of those people, he manipulated them into wanting to please him and to serve him, and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, Magneto. I like what they did with Magneto, and that they played off the trope: the enemy of my enemy is my friend. We have a common enemy, so we're gonna work together. And while still like in the end showing that Magneto's still the villain, because instead of going with the heroes, he uses a Cerebro for his own purpose to accomplish what he wanted to accomplish in the first film, and that is rid the world of humans. Because he sees them as pests, he sees them as less evolved than mutants, and so he, in the end, he's still the villain, while he was helping the heroes because he knew that what this guy is about to do, what Stryker is trying to do, is a threat to me. So I need to, look out for myself and my people, I need to look out for mutants because he cares about mutants, but he doesn't care about humans, and so he obviously works that out so that he can be the villain still in the end while helping the heroes throughout the movie. So it helps. It's a compelling dynamic. I wish we'd gotten a little more of Charles and Xavier, or sorry, I keep saying Charles and Xavier, Charles and Magneto, Charles and Eric, because we didn't really get much interaction between them. I think we had like one scene, but that was when he was hooked up to Cerebro.
Yeah, I don't think they ever.
Yeah,
even
so we didn't
talked.
get much, right? Which was, I think, my complaint in the first film. We got a little bit. Well, we did get some in the first film, but I still had felt like it wasn't enough, and we didn't get a whole lot of Charles's backstory, or not backstory. Well, yeah, we didn't get much of his backstory, but we didn't get much of character development from him in the first film. We didn't get really any in this one. Anyways, so I wish they would have, since they're bringing Magneto into this, being able to give Charles and Magneto a little more interaction, but that's fine. That's what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I guess as far as villains, that's probably all I really have to say.
Yeah, I think so. We kind of touched on heroes. Was there much that you wanted to get into?
Yeah, Wolverine, I said,
of course,
I think he, like you said, we didn't get a whole lot of action from him. We did get some, and it was good.
Yeah.
We could have gotten more, but I think that's mostly because it wasn't really needed as much, and this was a lot about him learning about who he was, and them giving him an arc, which I think ends pretty well, because the last movie, he's a changed character from the beginning to the end, and he goes off to try to figure out wanting to figure out who he is, where he came from, but he's willing to come back and keep his attachments to the school and to these friends he's made, because he gave his dog tags to Rogue, and before he left at the end of the first one. This one, we start off, we see him going to finding the facility where he became Weapon X, where he got his adamantium, and then and then from there he starts kind of unraveling more and more clues to figure out who he is. Everyone, you have Magneto who knows a little bit about who he is, and then Stryker and whatnot. He keeps being told that he has a past that he doesn't know about, he doesn't remember, and he wants to remember, he wants to figure this out, he wants to unravel these things. And of course, Stryker being the villain helps that along, where he has his plot that doesn't necessarily involve Wolverine, but Wolverine is brought into this because he's become a hero, he's become a leader, and he's leading and caring for these kids and bring them along in order to take down the enemy. And while he's trying to figure out still who he is, and in the end he realizes, you know what, me figuring out who I am is not that important. What's important is these people, these kids, this school, these mutants, the people that are like me, people are becoming my family. That's what's more important. And so he doesn't go with Stryker. He doesn't accept Stryker's offer when Stryker says, come with me and I will let you know. I'll help you figure out. I'll tell you, who you are. But he doesn't go that route. And instead, he decides to be the hero. Decides to be this father figure to these kids, and so just even further growth, further development for him from the first movie. That I think was just well done. It was compelling. It was good.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I don't know, Jean. She played a pretty prominent role in the movie. Yeah, but I don't know. Not much character, and most of the scenes were just her getting a vision or seeing something in the future and being puzzled, and
she's very unsure of herself the whole time. She's never there's no real story there, other than she's just things are happening to her, she's unsure of it, and she just doesn't know her power as well, and things like that. And then in the end we get her sacrifice, which, did you realize how dumb that whole scene was?
When she
sacrificed herself, she gets off the plane and then the water. So
I guess I didn't think about it.
Okay.
What? because
Okay.
I'm forgetting what happened.
Okay, let
Yeah.
me lay it all out. It's the
Go for
dumbest
it.
scene ever. Here I have it. Okay. So the dam broke and she can hear it or something. Somehow she knows that the water's coming and nobody else knows. I don't know how she knows, but somehow she
Yeah.
knows that the water's coming. And so what she does to save them, she gets off the plane because they're having trouble starting the plane. She gets off the plane and she stands between the plane and where the water's coming, and she gets ready to hold the water like Moses basically. And
Yeah.
so when she does that, she with her powers starts the plane and then starts lifting up the plane while holding the water. And they're all like, making a big thing about it. And the teleport guy is there, and he was trying to teleport to save her, and he couldn't because she was blocking his powers.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole sacrifice, because she ends up, she was like saying, I have to sacrifice myself, and then the water floods
Yeah.
over her. She's like becoming the phoenix, and then the water floods over her. But she gets off the plane and then starts the plane. She could have started the plane when she was in the plane, and they could have flown off. She gets out of the plane. She lifts up the plane.
Takes all that time.
She
Yeah.
could have lifted the plane while in the plane. She could have let the teleport guy teleport and save her. None of it made any
Right.
sense.
That's
It was
dumb.
driving me nuts. Nothing
Yeah.
in that made any sense. I'm like, so this whole
That's
time
funny.
while they're trying to start it, like
Right.
she hears the water coming from far away, and instead of starting the plane and lifting it up so they can get out of there, or just starting it early enough that they could just fly away,
Yeah.
she gets out of the plane, then starts the plane, then lifts up the plane, stops the water, and it's like none of that.
Yeah.
Why did you get out of the plane? Why? For
Right.
any reason was there any reason at all to get out of the plane? There was no reason. She could have
There
done
wasn't.
any of that inside of the plane. And then she sacrificed
That's funny.
herself. Like
Yeah.
it felt like the most meaningless sacrifice ever. But not
Sure.
not noticing those things, what did you think of her sacrifice and that whole thing?
I didn't think much of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
she
like we
because
said,
there wasn't much. There hasn't
Yeah.
been much even in the first movie reason for us to really even care about her
Yeah,
as a
exactly.
character, and she's just kind of been there. And I don't know, and like when they're trying to set up this love triangle between her, Scott, and Wolverine, and Logan. I've just not really been. It's not been compelling. I don't really believe it. I don't really see much chemistry between,
Yeah.
at least between Jean and Logan. I just don't. I don't see it much. So it's like, I don't know. I'm not given much reason to care, and then even her sacrifice isn't that impactful,
Yeah.
at least to me. I mean, it's what it is. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
because she's becoming the Phoenix. She has these powers within, and they're about to be unleashed. They are after she pretty much dies, and now she's going to be reborn in the next one. So yeah, I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is set up for the third one for her
It
character
is.
because she's a very prominent character in that movie, like, and so I think a lot of it is set up for that. So I think by this time, like they've probably greenlit the second and third movie, so like when the writers made this movie, they probably knew what was coming for the third or had a pretty good idea of the story. So I'm sure that a lot of it was set up, and it feels like set up too. So
Yeah, I mean, like one note I made was she is struggling with the fact that she has these powers and she doesn't know how to use them or what to do with them or even what this means. And in the end, she realizes that she needs to use her powers and she kind of figures out, okay, this is what I have these powers for. It's so that I can save my friends. And so she goes and makes that sacrifice. So like, that's a good reason, I guess, or that helps it become. It makes it a little more impactful, but it's not a good character that's making that decision that we can feel compelled or feel bad about or
Yeah.
we have no attachment to her. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Nightcrawler was another one that I liked.
Yeah.
He had a pretty good story. Him he's being used as the villain in the beginning by Stryker,
Mm-hmm.
and he feels a lot of guilt, and he's wrestling with that. But he also knows he doesn't belong. He's figuring out that he can belong to these people, and kind of learning about who he is, and he doesn't have to be ashamed of who he is, and then he learns to become a hero and save others. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was
Yeah.
yeah. It was
No, I really liked
decent
his
character.
story, and I like his character. Even when we saw him in the rebooted version, like
Yeah,
we same thing. We had a lot of good things to say about his character.
definitely.
But yeah, let's
Yeah.
we could probably, unless you have anything else to say about any more characters, we could probably kind of get into the ending of the movie or finishing up the
Hmm.
story.
Sure. Yeah.
So we kind of talked about character development already. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about that?
I
No.
don't think so. I think that's
Um,
just about it.
Other than Jean's sacrifice, was there any other sacrifice moments that you noticed? Because I didn't write any others down. I think I was just so blown away by that dumb sacrifice that
Yeah, not really.
yeah.
Not anything that stands out. I mean, they all.
Yeah, it's the typical like heroes, like they are
Mhm.
fighting, risking their
Yeah.
lives in these fights and
Yeah.
stuff, and they're
Yeah.
acting as heroes for sure.
Yeah, and they're a lot of them are overcoming fears, especially because they're still kids, but they're going to fight this enemy and use the powers to the best their abilities to save the world,
Yeah,
save all mutants. So yeah, it's good.
I think Jean was the only one that had like the death and burial
Yeah,
circumstance, and of course we
I
know
think
she
so.
has the resurrection in the next one. So
Yeah.
yeah, kind of dumb. Anyway, Dark Knight of the Soul. I think it was, if I had to say, is probably when Magneto turned and made it so Xavier had to kill all the humans.
Yeah.
There was like, we were in the all is lost when Xavier's having to kill the mutants. There's this long period of like they're fighting against him, they're trying to get it to stop and all that stuff. And then we get that switch of like, oh, now Magneto's in this too, and he's making him kill all the humans. So yeah, I think that was definitely that moment. Did you see anything like that they had to change or had to overcome to overcome the Dark Knight of the Soul?
I don't think so. I mean,
I
I
mean,
don't think this was necessarily Dark Knight of the Soul, but like Wolverine having to decide not to follow Stryker,
right?
and then allowed it so that Stryker would get caught and whatnot. So yeah, it was. I thought that was it was a good change for a character
Yeah,
because he's wrestling. He's wrestling the whole movie. It's like, hey, I want to find out who I am and where I came from. Everyone else knows who I am. Everyone else knows where I came from, but I don't, and I don't have these memories. And now he has the key. He has the one person that can help him find out who he is, and he's like, no, I'm gonna do the right thing, and he doesn't go that way. So I don't know if that doesn't really classify as a Dark Knight of the Soul necessarily, but for his character, like that was the big change, and he
yeah,
needed to do the right thing.
yeah. No, the
Um,
change doesn't always have to be like right when the Dark Knight of the Soul is either. It can
sure,
be
yeah,
a change a little bit before, and then when the Dark Knight of the Soul comes, since they've changed, they can overcome it.
hmm
It usually works better when it's in the Dark Knight of the Soul that they overcome it or they change or make
yeah,
that flip that switch in their head and overcome whatever. But yeah, one thing we should note is again, Raven Mystique was in this, so very sexualized as always,
hmm
and can't
yeah.
think of, was there anyone else that was sexualized? I think it was just her character.
It was pretty much just her.
I don't think there's anything else really.
No.
So
Yeah, I think. Yeah, other than that, it wasn't. I don't think there's anything else too bad. But I mean, she did have more of a role in this one. I think maybe more than
hmm
the first movie. And yeah, so just be aware of that.
yep, for sure. Yeah, do you have anything else in the story at all? We can kind of get
Think
into some of
so.
the technical stuff.
I think that's about it for me.
Cool. Yeah, me too. Casting, acting, casting, of course. I think other
A lot
than
of this, like I said, a lot of the same
yeah,
actors from the first one.
Nightcrawler and
Mm-hmm.
Pyro. I think were the only two new characters, which
I think
I
so,
liked
pretty
both of
much.
them. I thought they were pretty good. I think they're both great additions
Mm-hmm.
to this film.
Totally. Yeah, I think they did a great job, and yeah, I think all the casting from the first one over to this one's great for the most
hmm
part, and
Yeah,
yeah, no complaints there.
yeah. I think all the acting was good too. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's actually, yeah, really good.
Cinematography, like or like even special effects, visual effects, it wasn't bad. I thought it keeps getting better
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
most
for sure.
part.
You can definitely see a
There was like
difference in this one.
there was like one scene I think, or maybe a couple when the jet was flying in, where it's like okay, that was very much a CGI jet, and you could tell.
hmm
It kind of stood out to me, but other than that, I think what they did with Wolverine was good. I'm sure they used more practical effects, but Wolverine's claws look great. One thing, yeah, Nightcrawler, like they did an awesome job, especially that fight at the
Oh yeah,
beginning where he's at the White House. I thought that was a great scene with the music playing and him skipping and jumping all over the place. Like it looked great. Like there
yeah.
wasn't anything that really stood out that it was
Huh.
bad as far as CGI,
Yeah, I didn't even think about
and
that. Yeah,
they used them throughout the film, and I think they did a good job
yeah, yeah.
as
No,
far as visual
they
effects
did
goes.
great with him. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Cyclops, some of his CGI whenever he uses his eyes powers is a little rough, but it's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, we got that one character that he's in the Deadpool movies. He like turns into all metal.
Oh yeah, so Colossus.
Colossus, yeah. He was in a couple scenes in this movie.
I think so. I think that's his name. Yeah, yeah, he was. Yeah, literally a couple scenes. There's like I think only one of those scenes he was actually all metal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they just showed
yeah,
it
that
once.
looked a little rough, but
Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing that I noticed. Music was there's a few moments where I was like, yeah, they're pushing a little bit to like push for some emotions here, but
no.
other than that, I think there's only one scene that I remember like really
Hmm.
noticing it. But
Okay. Yeah, I mean nothing really stood out. I mean stood out as like bad score, bad music. For the most part, I thought it was really good, and
yeah,
they had
yeah.
the X-Men theme again at the beginning, and then some of the action scenes were I think was well done. A lot better music than the last movie we watched with Daredevil. So,
Yeah, for sure.
but
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, I thought it was another well done
Yeah.
score.
Yeah, for sure. Man, I don't think we got much else for this, huh?
I don't think so. Oh
All
yeah,
right.
Wolverine, like comic book accuracy once again. I think he gets better throughout each film. He definitely
Yeah.
bulked up more. I don't know if you noticed in this one,
Mm-hmm.
and more than the first one, because that was one thing about the first one is that you could didn't look like he had bulked up a whole lot, but he definitely did for this one. And then like yeah, a lot of the scenes, even with his hair and his sideburns and everything, like it just looked better. And there's an
Yeah.
improvement there. I noticed at least.
Yeah. Yeah, they did exaggerate his hair a little more in this one. I noticed that too.
Yeah, which I'm fine with.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we can get into rating.
So let's do it.
Yeah.
This one's gonna be a hard one for me. People always say that X2. I think most people say X2 is the best X-Men. I think
Hmm.
that's universally kind of the consensus.
Hmm.
I think I would agree as far as like what we've watched so far. I mean, First Class as like a story, and with the heroes and villains, that one's pretty good. But like this one, set in the time that it was, I think telling a pretty good story, having a really good villain, the hero, at least with Wolverine and some of the others. Like we didn't talk about Rogue much, but I think she was all right. It's pretty good
Mm-hmm.
in this one. Yeah, I don't know. Where do you want to put this?
I don't know. Is this gonna
It,
break the 6 barrier? The first.
I don't. Yeah, it might. Like, oh, well, as a movie, like, is it really that good?
Yeah, it's
Like
true.
as a superhero movie, sure. Like, I think it has almost everything we want, almost in a superhero movie, and
It's
I don't know.
right around first class for me.
It is. I
It's
think
hard to
so.
tell. Like, I kind of want to say it's better.
Hmm.
Um,
I think I'd say it's better.
yeah, and one reason we did give first class a pretty low score too was because of the sexualization,
Hmm.
and this one had less. I mean, it's still there,
Yeah,
but it was less. And I think since we do have a pretty good story here, I think it could be above it. But it does it break the 6 barrier? Does it hit the 7s?
um, yeah.
I
I
kind
think we
of
could give it a good 7.
Yeah, you
I
think so?
I was thinking 7.1.
Okay.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, we can do 7 because I was kind of leaning more towards like 6.8, 6.9. So
Uh
if
huh.
you're saying 7.1, we can do 7. We can put it into the
I think.
7s.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Because that leaves a lot of room. I mean,
It does.
7's
Yeah,
not a great score, but it shows that
it's good.
it
Yeah,
had good themes, good messages, it had good
yeah.
story.
Right. I think the only thing this has going against it, well, mostly what has going against it is the fact that there's only really one hero that is given much of an arc. A lot of the others were kind of just
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
especially with Jean and Scott, and then you even have Magneto. Like Magneto, we didn't talk about much, a whole lot about him, but we did because I thought they handled him mostly
Yeah,
well
they
towards
handled
the
him
end.
well. They We had a really great villain,
Yeah.
and Wolverine's story was worked out really well. He had a lot of
Hmm.
good development, and he was getting closer to his mission of figuring out who what his past is, but then giving
Yeah.
that up for good reasons. And yeah,
Totally.
no, it's all good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
So I think 7.1 is fair.
7.0, I thought.
Oh, 7 point. Oh, sorry, movie. Okay, 7.
Yeah,
Never
7.
mind. No, that's good. Yeah,
Cool. Yeah. All
awesome.
right. Well, we have given you our X2 X-Men United review.
X-Men United. Which,
We've
like, hey, like, I mean, it stuck to the theme. United.
Yeah.
The villains and the heroes come together, unite. All they all come together for a common enemy. We didn't talk about this, but I'm talking about it now.
Yeah,
So I was
no,
like,
that's good.
good job.
For
It's
sure.
good.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, that's our review for X-Men X2 X-Men United
Yeah.
7.0. It's a pretty good score, especially if you look at all our other scores. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It is.
we we appreciate your support. We appreciate you guys listening. You can also check out our other show. We hit end on this recording and we hit play on our next recording. We will be going right into our movie chronicles. It's a free show you can listen to anywhere you listen to podcasts, and also check out our Patreon. We do, after our movie chronicles, a patron only show where we do mini reviews. This week we'll be doing Dune Part 2. We both went to theaters and saw it, so
Yeah.
we will be diving into that and doing some comparisons and stuff, also to the first one and such. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, if you want to support us, go ahead and subscribe to that, and we appreciate that. And yeah, thank you for listening,
Definitely.
and continue to keep in mind what you're watching, and make sure you're watching good stuff. Try to stay in our 6 range, I'd say.
Right.
So, yep. Thank you guys, and go watch good stuff.
Yes. Right. Watch good stories, read good stories, tell good stories, and live good stories.
There you go.
Adios.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.